Hello and welcome to another episode of Bare Minimum Babe. Today is going to be a simple one where I thought it might be nice to share all of my favorite things within reason and within what I could remember that I really loved and kind of leaned into this year of our baby Jesus Lord 2022. And when I was thinking about this, I hear like Julie Andrews singing, "These are a few of my favorite things." And that feels Christmassy to me. I assume because they play that song on the radio during Christmas. I don't really remember why it's Christmassy. I don't think the movie has anything to do with Christmas, but anyways, so that's what gave me the idea to do this episode. I'm also going to be sharing some of the things that I do when I'm stressed to help me calm down, the books, the shows, the movies that give me good feels, and some of my fave podcasts that you probably like too, especially if you like this podcast, Bare Minimum Babe. I wanted to also touch on and reflect a little bit before I do a full episode next week on how essentially I failed my 2022 goals and how I'm okay with that, and what I learned from that failing and the crisis aftermath. So without further ado, let's get into the episode today. Okay, so I wanted to quickly touch on how last year I planned for and goal set for 2022 with great intentions. Me and a couple of friends, we made a whole lovely day of it. I did that with a group of friends at one of their houses. And then I did something with my friend online that I meet with every single week, Monday, basically. And we did our own kind of version of that too. So I built up this general, who is Amanda? What does she want to do? What are her goals this year? Blah, blah. We got all in our feels. It was lovely. And honestly, it did help me to be more realistic with my goals and what I would be able to accomplish in my current, at that time, what was my current kind of wreck of a mental state. I don't want to get into too much detail because it's not relevant to the story, but November, December of 2021 was not a really great space for me. It was on a mentally weird place. And around that time, I don't know the exact time frame with that, but around that time I was referred to a psychiatrist. And then that's when I was diagnosed as bipolar 2, which I've talked about in other episodes and explained that it's part of why the simple depression diagnosis and the treatments weren't really working that great for me. But point is that I was super on point with the goal planning, setting up a system to fall back on, and ideas to use when I was maybe at a loss of what to do as my next idea kind of thing. So instead of being do this X amount of times a day, I wrote a goal and then I wrote ideas of what I could do. This wasn't a goal, but for example, if I was I want to take better care of myself, self-care, I underneath of that put a list of things that I know make me happy kind of thing. Listen to a podcast, go for a walk. It wasn't go for a walk 5 times a month. It was just literally ideas I could do if I wanted to do that thing, if that makes sense. So I was totally strong on the conviction of what I wanted for my career, and I had no problem implementing it other than the actual work of doing it. I knew what I wanted to do kind of thing. And I went over to the wall in my typical fashion, and I just kind of hacked away at it. And I did try my best to accomplish it kind of thing. But during this time, I also started to reflect in a good way, partially through the goal planning and weekly meeting with my friend that I was just rallying against last episode in Infantilizing Women, Glittered Planners and Bright Stickers for the Win, episode 16. I did like that goal planner. It just was I feel it doesn't need to be probably done every single year and all the time. It's a good reflection if you're at an inflection point where you're kind of thinking about things a little bit more and kind of honing in on what it is that you're going to do. So I did all the goal breakdowns. I set actionable steps, things I wanted to finish, things I wanted to start, skills and relationships I wanted to strengthen. But ultimately, I only really accomplished half of my goals. So I failed 50% of them if you looked at them directly with an objective eye instead of being well, I felt pretty good about it. No, I failed half of them. And I realized around midway through the year, June, that I think I realized I put down goals that I think I was supposed to based on what I chosen for my career path. And I was attempting to force my goals to be a thing. I was trying to force fetch to happen, as Christian Wieners would say, instead of taking stock in what I actually valued as a human being. Much like I talked about in the previous episode, Gratitude Journals Suck, and here's why, episode 13, I realized what I actually valued was my relationships. And these were the relationships I already had with others and I wanted to strengthen and commit to. And then in real relationships, I wanted to form on the basis of liking the person genuinely versus just trying to connect with them because of what I thought could come from it. And I realized that's kind of what I was doing in a lot of instances, is I was just kind of reaching out to people or trying to get into certain circles because I thought of what it could bring to me, but then realizing I didn't actually feel like I was a part of the room. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just didn't feel like I was actually making it in a nice way, if that makes sense. And it just felt like dishonest to me because I'm not very good. I mean, I can turn it on kind of thing, but I'm not good at long-term feeling good about that type of stuff. And so with this realization, which also, like I said, I'll go into more in next week's episode titled, I failed my 2022 goals and I'm okay with that. Episode 18. I kind of threw my goals away a little mentally and tried to figure out instead how to move forward, but be more aligned with what I valued and figure out what would actually bring me happiness, essentially, not just like, I'm going to do only things that make me happy, but more just like, I don't know. I wasn't enjoying the journey as much as I theoretically should. And that's kind of the whole point, because when you reach the destination, you might not be super fulfilled because you always are then on to the next thing. Like, you've already been thinking about you've been thinking about the next destination as you're on the way to the first destination. So you have to enjoy the journey. And I wasn't doing that. So I started trying to figure out how I could flow more in my life. And I realized this back in, like I said, June, July time. And now, like 6 months later, when I'm recording this in December of 2022, I'm only kind of now consciously realizing what was kind of subconsciously and like feeling in my body back 6 months ago. And now I'm working this out like externally and kind of doing that and figuring out how to make goals now at that point that actually align with me. And I've been talking to my friend about this too. And she was thinking the exact same way of like more flow approach. And instead of being more rigid of like, this is what I'm going to do this many times a week. And that got me pretty far. It worked for me, but then it came to a point where it wasn't. And then I would feel bad if I didn't do it, instead of just being like, well, at least you did this kind of thing. Hopefully that makes more sense, but I'm trying to move forward more on this flow based approach. And I'm going to share now the things that I've been really leaning into with those kinds of realizations that I've been loving and trying not to judge myself for, if it makes me happy or like reduces stress or helps me like literally any way. And so that's what the rest of this episode is going to be about, is how I realize like certain things make me happy and they don't have to be like super like productive or like, wow, that was transformative. They can just be things that make you happy kind of thing. So I've talked about this before in other episodes, but one of the big things that makes me happy is Monday through Friday, I wake up with my husband and we go to work out for like an hour and a half, 2 hours every Monday through Friday. And I really like that time we spend together. And obviously like we're doing fitness stuff. So I'm like getting healthier and stronger and all those good things. And also I guess this year, was counted as this year, is that I got into weightlifting because I was doing hot yoga before, Bikram yoga before the pandemic. And then of course studios shut down because COVID. And so I was at home doing home workouts for like 2 years or whatever. When stuff reopened, I was like, I don't really want to pay that much for a yoga studio. Let's check out the gym. And I said I wanted to get more of a butt. And my husband was like, well, you need to start squatting. Like that's a lifting thing. Like you need to start squatting stuff. And I was like, oh, fine. So I begrudgingly started lifting and I really like it now. So we do that Monday through Friday and I really like spending that time with him. It's like a shared activity essentially. The next thing that I do that makes me feel good is I read. I mostly read nonfiction. And like I talked about in other episodes, is like each morning I'll set like a 30-minute timer. And it's typically a nonfiction book in the morning just so I can like feel like I'm learning or doing something productive, not like crazy productive, but just kind of like passively productive and something I enjoy. Is I'll like set that 30-minute timer and I'll read something. And then like towards the end of the day, like when we're just kind of hanging out as a family after dinner and stuff like that, I might read a little bit of like a fiction book, just until bed kind of thing, like 40 minutes, like half hour, 40 minutes. Another good thing that I like to do is I just chat with my daughter after school, and she shares like random 5th grade drama. And like I said, like a lot of the stuff I'm listing is not like major things. It's just like little things that I realize I really like and just kind of like, I think take for granted in a way. So the next thing is again with my daughter. And when Taylor Swift's Midnights first came out, and we still kind of jammed to it, but like I was hardcore jamming to that album. And so singing Taylor Swift's Midnight in the car with my daughter, and like for whatever reason, I guess Taylor's an adult, so she curses a lot in this album. And like there's a clean version, but I don't know, the clean versions are always kind of lame. So I just listened to the explicit and I'm just like, whatever. She's 10. She can see stuff. Like, she doesn't have to repeat it. Anyway, so one of my favorite things to do at that time was like kind of look at her and see if she would say the curse word. And just, she would give me like a sly smile. Like, I would never, except she definitely does probably when I'm not around. And that's okay, because whatever, right? My another favorite thing to do that I realized I liked during COVID, like a lot of people I'm sure, because they couldn't do anything else, was go on walks outside the neighborhood. So it's getting a little cold now because it's December, so I don't really want to. But other seasons I've been like doing walks. So I would like after or before lunch, take a walk. It's usually like after lunch. Like I'm like, okay, this is a good breaking point. Let's just after I get back from my walk, it's like a reset. And I would it was like hit or miss whether or not I would take like my earbuds and like listen to a podcast or something like that. But most of the time I'm like, it's just a quick like 10, 15 minute walk. I'll just like listen to the sounds of the neighborhood, Mr. Rogers style. And next to that, one of my favorite things that I realized I really like to do is listen to podcasts, obviously. And I like to listen to them so much that I made one of my own. So I really like some podcasts. And again, I list some of the stuff that I'm doing. Like I listed this stuff out in the episode notes, and transparency is I spent an hour like previous to this recording stuff, and then it hit the half-hour mark because I was going through my favorite stuff, like my favorite podcast, my favorite book, my favorite TV shows, and I had only gotten through like half of what I had listed, and it was already at the half-hour mark, and I was like, I feel like this is going to be boring and people aren't going to care. So I honestly just erased that entire, like, I don't want to say I wasted an hour. I'm like, but I realized I was like, would I want to listen to this? I don't know. Let's just erase this and start over. So I'm listing that stuff in like the actual post on bareminimumbabe.com. If you go into the episode notes below, click on the link, that'll have all the listed stuff, but I'm not going to go into it just because I was just like, I think this is going to be boring if I like list everything and then go in, like give like a quick little like 20-second synopsis of each thing times like X amount of things. It led to like a half hour at least, and not even like halfway through the list. And so I'm redoing this. So back to what I was saying before. So listening to podcasts, my next favorite thing is, it's not really an activity, but it's just the way I realized I like to communicate a lot this year, is instead of just texting my friends regular, like text, I'll instead send my friends like long voice memos. Like I'll just go into the voice memo of my Apple and just record basically like a little mini podcast for them. It's basically a lazy phone call where you don't actually have to pick up and talk right there, but it still gives you like the benefits, and like my friends were liking it too, because probably the same reason I like it. So in conjunction with that, I have like a weekly call and meeting with my friends that I talk about all the time. Because I've, besides the fact that they're my friends, sometimes being your own little business is isolating and feels kind of like an echo chamber. So we need community of some sort. And I'm like really happy with the community that I've built for myself, because like side note, my closest friends are women that I randomly reached out to on social media because they seemed really cool and they were doing something that I admired in some way, and I wanted to be their friend. And I don't want to say I hoped I was worthy, but I was like hoping I was worthy of them wanting to be my friend, because I liked what they were doing, admired what they were doing, and I wasn't sure if they'd have the same feeling about me. And anyways, turns out that I guess I was worthy and that they liked me. So also point is that if you want to be friends with someone, just, I don't know, say hi. Like chances are good that if you're not a weirdo, they'll like you too. And another thing that I really like doing that I realized is I bite my nails, and I've bit my nails for like literally ever. And I wanted to stop doing that. And so I wanted to make them look pretty and longer. And so I started to giving myself a manicure each Sunday afternoon as just part of my like not biting your nails. You spent time taking care of them, don't bite them. And I actually really like it because I've gotten pretty good at it, and pretty like, because you're doing it like once a week, and then I watch YouTube videos. So you get pretty decent at it. And it's kind of like a meditative thing. It's like a physical act of doing something, and you don't have to like focus on other stuff. So I really like that. And I have like a nice product. If afterwards I can like be shallow and look down at my hands and be like, oh, they look pretty. Another thing that I like doing is watching Sugar Rush or some other kind of mindless show, usually like a cooking show, because it's usually within like an hour, is watching Sugar Rush on the couch after dinner with my husband and my daughter. My daughter is not a big fan of cooking shows, but she likes that she gets to watch TV with us. And I don't really want to watch tween dramas because they're really corny, and I'm selfish, and she watches TV a lot more than I do. So I'm just like, no, we're going to watch what I want to watch. And additionally to that, actually, I realized I like anime movies. Like I think the first one my daughter and I watched together this year was I want to say Spirited Away. And it's kind of weird. It's kind of like, what is this? But it's like really pretty and cool. And it's got a nice story. And then anyways, we got into it. We started watching other movies, like other from the Studio Ghibli. Another one that I like is Howl's Moving Castle. And like there's other really good ones too. I like that one. And like I think it's My Neighbor Totoro is really good too. So basically just kind of watching cutesy shows and movies with my family. And then I also this year I took a class that interested me. Like I said, I talked about before at the local community center. I took a watercoloring class just because, I don't know, I was interested into it in COVID when things first started. I bought like a whole little kit and only colored things a couple times because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, whatever. And I know that I'm more likely to do stuff if I have like an actual time and place to be somewhere. Like a lot of people kind of like why I like the gym is because it's easier just to show up and do the thing instead of being like just going downstairs and forcing yourself to do something with no one else around to keep you accountable. So I took a watercoloring class and I really liked it. And I signed up for a drawing class that I think starts in January. And that'll be actually with someone that, funny story, not that funny, but like, I'm like already making it sound lame, but like I go to the gym, like I said, every Monday through Friday. There's like, you see the same people. It's like the same basic crew. Anyways, this one guy there, I saw him at his place of work and I was like, hey, while I was out with my dog, I was like, hey, not to be weird, but you go to this gym, like to this gym? And he's like, yeah, I know who you are. And I was like, yeah, okay. Anyways, we started chatting. It's not like a flirty thing. Anyways, we started talking. His wife was doing like a new drawing thing. Like she was getting into digital drawing and I was talking because I'm a musician. So we just started chatting. And then he gave me her number and we have become friends. It's like this weird, like, that's how we became friends kind of thing. But anyways, we signed up for a drawing class together. So the three of us are going to do a drawing class, I think in January. And my husband couldn't do it because it didn't work out with the schedule. So it's going to be the three of us. I'll be a cool, flirt, awkward wheel. So that's that. Taking more classes that interest me just for fun and no, like, I don't know, real gain or productivity gain from it just because I want to, just to expand, blah, blah, blah. So the next thing is practicing piano because I really like the way, I guess it's emotional and flows more. And I like how a lot of the songs sound compared to the guitar like I was doing before. And so I've been like practicing piano just because I want to, not because I feel like I have to. And that's different from the way that I was approaching it before and the way that I was approaching guitar because I was like really hardcore trying to get better at guitar because I knew it could help with other things and I could get more acoustic gigs, therefore more money. But like if I'm leaning more R&B stuff, it's more like chord piano based a lot of times or like synth bass and vocal bass and more electric guitar funky stuff and like I don't know, like digital production is not so much like live band feel like acoustic guitar is, if that makes sense. So anyways, I've been playing and learning songs on the piano just essentially for fun and just kind of see how it sounds. And of course, I like to sing. My favorite song to sing, because I get asked that not that infrequently, is At Last by Etta James because I don't know, it's just a great song. And because it's so like free flowy, you can kind of do whatever you want with the runs and kind of come in and out of the song. It's like really free flowy and you can kind of make the runs your own. It's just a really nice song. And I'd like, if you analyze the song kind of thing, you can see that it's not that complicated of a song. Like, I mean, the vocals are like impressive the way Etta sings it, obviously, and like that thing, but like the actual lyrics and the structure and stuff, it's pretty simple. Like it's really not that in depth and complicated or clever. And that's kind of like interesting to me because like you can spend so much time trying to make something like clever and smart, but really like maybe you don't have to. And that's kind of like another thing I've been learning. And another random thing that I've been enjoying is I found ASMR like Reiki videos, like let's call it like 6 months ago. And I realized I really liked the ASMR sounds because I checked them out before and they were I thought they were weird. Like there's just like playlists of like paper turning and like that stuff. I didn't get anything from that. But when it was combined with a video and they were pretending to like touch me, like massage my face or something like that, it like made me feel like calm and relaxed. So anyways, I've been watching my favorite one to watch. And again, I'm going to list all this stuff. There's a woman called the Loon Innate and she's a Reiki master and she combines Reiki and ASMR. And so I'm not quite honestly sure Reiki versus ASMR because that's my main information on Reiki is what she does. So I'm like, I don't think it's full on Reiki. I think she does a combo of things, but like, I just like the calming effect of it. And I watch that literally every single night before bed to calm my mind. No joke. I watch it every single night. And then another random thing I like to do is pet random street cats. I will lure cats over, kitty, 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 and they'll come over and I'll pet them. And that's pretty much me being weird on the street. And another thing, I guess I should have lumped this with the other one, but This year I took ice skating lessons. Just, I don't know like what came over me. I think it was just kind of like things that I would like to do that I've just never done or like had the time or like, I don't know, whatever. I just thought it would like seeing something and thinking it was cool that someone else could do it and wanting to do it myself. I think that's kind of like the main thing that pushes me is like, oh, they can do it. I want to do it too. That's cool. So I took ice skating lessons to try something new and I really loved it. The issue is it's not cheap to do the lessons. And so I did like 2 rounds of like the group lessons, like 2, I don't want to say semesters, but whatever it was, let's call it like 3 months of it. And it was really great to get out of my head and focus on my body instead onto a full task. Cause like you were so busy focusing your body into a task that like you weren't at all thinking about other things. Like you weren't in your mind introspective thinking about like things you had to get done or like things that you had to, like people had you to call or whatever. You were just focusing on like balancing your body and like keeping your right leg this way, like you were focusing. And it was just like really cool. And I really like it. Plus now I don't feel as lame when my daughter has like a PTO thing and they had like a ice skating night the other night. And I was like, I can ice skate. I wasn't like doing crazy tricks, but I was like, I never fell. So that was cool beans for me. And like another random thing is I just for like tidbits about me, I really like taro smoothies with boba. And there's a really good Vietnamese place by us and they have like actual taro, like they actually use like the taro fruit and not just powder. It's so, so good. And my favorite food is French fries and I've just been leaning into that and just having fun. So yeah. Thank you so much for having me in your ears for another episode of Bare Minimum Babe. I hope that something in this episode maybe sparked your interest or I don't know, helped you let go of some judgment that you might have felt for yourself because maybe the things you've been enjoying recently might not be like quote unquote productive to the outside world. And like I said earlier in the episode, if you go into the episode show notes, I have the things that I really like kind of listed on a post and they'll have links to where you can find the stuff. Like I said before, like I had a whole thing where I recorded and was going through my favorite books and like little quick synopsis and it was just getting too long. And I was like, this is going to be boring. People aren't going to care. So to not have that effort wasted of all the stuff that I wrote out. And so I can still share that stuff. I have it linked in the episode notes. So if you click on that link, it'll have all the stuff there on the actual bareminimumbabe.com website on that post. And so you can check stuff out from there if you're interested. But anyways, I hope you thought something was interesting or maybe you think something different about what you like or I don't know, let go of some judgment. So stay tuned for next week's episode titled I Failed My 2022 Goals and I'm okay with that, episode 18, where I'm going to share like I kind of touched on earlier at the beginning of this episode. I'm going to share what they actually were. I'll share what my 2022 goals actually were, how I failed, how I succeeded, what and how I learned from the little crisis that I'm still kind of coming out of, and how I'm moving into 2023 with these takeaways and perspective shifts. So if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend you think it could be maybe interesting too. And if you liked this podcast generally and you really just want to help me along, leave a 5-star review. And like I said, share it with somebody so another listener can get some information. And I think that's it. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. I know like the holidays are sometimes difficult. They're not the best for me personally. And so when I say have a great holiday season, I just mean like not terrible, have a decent enough, do what's best for you kind of thing, but not like a Scrooge way, have a good holiday. But if you don't want to go overboard with it and you feel guilty with all the going overboard with people around you and you're not into it, don't feel bad. It's hard. And I don't think people talk about that enough with holidays, is that it's not all rainbows and sunshines and holly and sprigs and stuff for everybody. So with that note, I will leave you with that. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and I'll be in your ears next week. Bye.